Hello you, welcome to Geekism and welcome back to Planet Zoo. We're going to be building a Nocturnal house today, but before we start, a quick word from the sponsor of this video. If you've been following Geekism for a while, you know I'm obviously a huge Planet Zoo fan and also its spiritual predecessors in the likes of Zoo Tycoon as well. There's videos of that game on the channel. What you might not know about me though is that my day job is the manager of a board game store. So when the folks behind Zoo Tycoon, the board game, reached out to sponsor a video, I obviously jumped at the chance. Zoo Tycoon, the board game, is officially licensed and is currently on Kickstarter. It's been doing it incredibly well. In fact, as you see this video, there's only going to be a couple of days left because I am a dirty procrastinator and have struggled to get this video out on time. Please head over and check it out. Just like its digital older brother, you are going to be building up a zoo, placing down animals, and also considering what the guests want as well. There are various win conditions. You can focus on making fancy exhibits for the all-star animals and getting support from local charities, or you can look at working towards endangered species being rehabilitated into the wild. You also get to choose whether you want to focus on restaurants or parks or exhibit centers for the guests. Everything you need comes in the box, including over 200 animal meeples. That's the little wooden animals that you see there. And also, if you back the Kickstarter, you'll get the exclusive giant panda one as well. The game looks fantastic. I can't wait to play it, and I'm sure there's going to be some of you out there who dig it as well. Head over to the link in the description. Back it now. Don't get disappointed by missing out on this one. It's going to be fantastic, and we thank them for the support of the channel. Zoo Tycoon, the board game. How about that? I can't wait. So yeah, here we are back in Planet Zoo and trying something a little bit different today. I very kindly was given the Nocturnal pack from Frontier. I'm still amazed every time they get in touch, despite the lack of content I've been putting out in recent years. But I'm very grateful that they're still sort of on board with Team Geekism. And I look through all the stuff and it all looks awesome. You know, they just keep hitting them out of the park, these sets. I think they're great. All the new the scenery looks really fun. It's a bit gimmicky for me, this one. You know, it's a bit more like it reminds me a lot of the spooky set we got from Planet Coaster. So I hope people have loads of fun using all the pumpkins and spooky trees and stuff. I probably won't be using much of that, but as always with these sets, there's also always 20 great pieces of wood and other stuff in there that we're going to be using. But the one thing that really appealed to me this time was the bats. And whilst I've not been playing the game so much, or playing any game really, unfortunately due to my schedule, I do watch a lot still. I still watch a lot of my favorite Planet Zoo creators. The boys, S-Dan and those, still putting awesome stuff out there, but there's so many great new ones as well, too many to list probably. One of the ones I've been really enjoying is Simply Savannah. I know I've mentioned her on the channel before. She's doing some really awesome stuff because not only is she doing great builds, she actually works in the industry as well. She actually works with animals, so she usually knows what she's talking about, as opposed to us who read a Wikipedia page and pretend we know what we're talking about. She's actually out there and doing this stuff for real, which is awesome. But saying all that, one thing I didn't see many people do, or at least sort of tackle it how I would have expected them to do, is a nocturnal house, sort of like a classic sort of dark house for bats that we've had in this new game, and then a lot of the other exhibit animals as well. So that's what I wanted to give it a go. As soon as I started doing it, I realized why people hadn't done it, and that's because it's pretty tough to do. There's a few reasons as to why it's tricky. Some of them are just sort of issues with the game itself, and some of them are just issues in general that it's no game I don't think could really fix. The new bat habitat is a relatively solid way of fixing the problem that the game would have with flying creatures, I think, and I definitely think this is a sort of a precursor to having birds in the game, and for that I'm very grateful. And I think it's about as good as they could do. Basically, we have just a big empty box that we can put them in, and then the animals are on a sort of set flight path, which, you know, I think is about as good as you can do it, really, without having to worry about that sort of three-dimensional pathfinding that would come with building a more sort of open habitat like we can for other animals. Although it does come with its own set of issues. It does mean that the box has to be a set size. This one, I think, is not terrible. It's probably a little tall for my liking, but actual sort of space on the ground size is fine. And also it needs to come with at least a couple of pieces of scenery that are set in place so that these animals have always got a place to perch, you know, so that they're not constantly flying around. And again, I think they've done a pretty good job of it. I can't really think of a better way of doing it, honestly, without sort of, you know, rebuilding the ground up and probably spending way too much time on something that, you know, is now in, you know, the secondary part of its life. This game is, you know, it's had the initial big rush, and now it's sort of appealing to the core demographic that's continuing to play it. So I don't know whether it's really worth their time or energy putting all that sort of stuff into it to make animals fly around, to make birds fly around, or what have you. So overall, I think the way they've done it is pretty good. I'm very glad that you can turn off the sides. My big worry was that we just get a big square box of mesh or glass that we can't do anything about. I'm very glad they've set it so that it can be nothing at all, because that's obviously what a lot of us creative types are going to want to use, like I'm doing here. So that's one issue with building an interior, is that you are sort of limited to the size of the bat habitat in the first place, and this building does end up being probably about 40% bigger than I would want it to, but I'm just going to kind of lean into it and have it as a big, you know, feature piece of the park. At the moment, because it's just a singular building sat on its own, it does look relatively monumental, probably a little bit too over the top, but I'm thinking that once other smaller buildings lead up to it, obviously we'll get some foliage, some larger trees around it, and I think we can actually sort of embed it and sort of ground it much better. At the moment, it does look a little stark when we're done, but that's because I just kind of had to pick a spot and build it. Oh, there, I was just checking out that piece. I don't remember seeing that, and I was like, oh, that's neat. So that's all that was. We're not using it. One thing I did see was this awesome willow tree, and for some reason I just thought, oh yeah, let's do like an atrium. So we've got like an L shape here, and the idea is that it's two separate bat habitats. You'll see, I think you saw me build it before, like I built a hole using the rock pieces, the round, the archwayed rock pieces, and the idea was that the bats could sort of fly in between the two. Obviously, mechanically they can't, but I wanted to give the impression that they could fly in between the two, and then it would, you know, be a way of bats getting away from one group that was a bit noisy or what have you. It ended up not working with the roof, and I just could not figure out how to do the roof around it. And that leads me on to the second reason I don't think we've seen particularly many of these nocturnal habitats, and that is because interiors are just difficult to build in this game. And I don't really think it's a fault of the game necessarily. I think it's just a fault of working in 3D space with a camera like this. It just makes it super tricky to get down and into the interiors. Tried it before, did it a few times in Planet Coaster, done it a couple of times in Planet Zoo. I'm doing it this time here, and I will never do it again. I don't know if you can particularly tell watching a sped up video like this, but man, did my energy run out halfway through this build. I had such a blast building this first room, and I'm sure you can tell. I look at that. I'm so happy with how that looks. It's great. I've put there's a straight path all the way through, but I got rid of all of the path texture and covered it up, and then gave a bit of a wind to it. So even though the guests do still walk just straight down the middle, I wanted to kind of make it look as if it kind of had a bit of a wind to it, and then having this sort of middle area that opens out into some exhibit animals, and then a secondary area here, just so we could do a nice mix of the interior furnishings, I guess, for the bats, you know, all the different sort of fruit things. Didn't want to put them all in one. It looks a bit too busy. I thought if we do two, we can have each one in each other one, basically, and it gives us that sort of idea. And spreads it all out a bit. So I was really happy with how that turned out. And all of this was fine. And then I had to build a roof onto all of this, and all of this rock is poking through the walls, and oh man, it was a lot of work. We got there, and I'm pretty happy with the end product, but I did have to sort of adjust my expectations a little bit. But I am still pretty happy with how it's come out. was lots of fun using some of the wooden pieces that I don't normally use. I've tried my best to use stuff that I don't normally use in this build, always trying to push yourself in this game. I think it's worth doing. These bamboo pieces I don't think I've really used much elsewhere, so I thought they would look pretty good here. This building should look a little fake. It is all sort of very sculpted and machined and fake. There's no better word for it, I think, because it's all indoors. I don't know whether or not the plants would survive in somewhere like this, or maybe they're even sort of wax plants. The same with the willow. It is built into an atrium, so we do have a glass roof on there. But again, you could even say that it's a sort of fake one. You really see the bat patterns there when it's sped up. Like, you don't really notice that they're on a loop in the real gameplay, but you certainly noticed it there when it's sped up. That's really fun. And also I use these aquatic rocks, and a lot of people really rave about these, and I think because of my colour blindness I'm a little put off by them, because I'm never quite sure whether I've got the colour right in them, so I often use natural rocks in my habitats, and I think these probably are better for most buildings because so many zoo structures do use concrete formed into the shape of rock, because it's just sort of sturdier and is more manageable and probably more cost effective as well. And that's what these really give across, that sort of that concrete formed into rock. So no, I don't normally use them. I probably should use them more, but I definitely felt like they were the rock to use here, because it's an interior build. Every single thing in here is going to be manufactured. It's going to be built into a warehouse. So that was the one reason why I wanted to go a little bit sort of fake looking with this. The other reason is that they often are, because in real life you have to kind of have this level of theming and scenery inside these buildings. Even some of the lower budget zoos I've been to have really quite highly themed nocturnal houses, and I think that's because without it, it's just a warehouse. I've got no evidence as that, but that to me seems what it is. Like, if you don't spend the time sort of, polishing this turd, it is just a warehouse, and that's fine for the bats. They don't really care that much. Again, we've talked about this a lot in the past on the channel, where, zookeepers have reported and told me that, a lot of the scenery is for the guests, it's there for the guests to feel good and happy, as opposed to the animals, and really for the most part a lot of animals will be quite happy in just a room that can be kept clean, and obviously the more theming and planting and everything you put in, the more difficult it is to keep it clean. But yes, I think that's the main thing here is that without all of these sort of fake rocks and planting and low lights and what have you, it would just be a big old empty dark room. So I think that's another reason why I wanted to kind of go for this kind of this sort of fake look to it. And again, I personally think it's come out pretty good. The only real issues I had with the whole build itself is the roof, and I actually think the roof looks pretty good. Just having the roof work with the interior is the tricky bit, having it so that no little bit of rock sticks through. I suppose the fix for this would be to like build a shell, almost build it like a thermos flask, I guess. Have an interior set of walls and an exterior set of walls, and therefore you can have a lot, you kind of given that insulation, that sort of gap in between where it isn't a problem. I do that here. The walls are actually sort of too thick, so I had got a little bit of space to play with, but it didn't seem enough. I think the problem with having it be any more is it just makes that building even bigger when it already is quite a large structure, and this I think is easily going to be the largest structure we have in this park, because it's it really is monumental, but that's fine. If there's just one big thing, this could be their sort of centerpiece, they're new for 2022. This could be where the sort of budget has gone for the year, is building this incredible world-class bat house or nocturnal house, and that's fine. So I think as long as we don't go super crazy, we still kind of hold on a little bit to that level of realism that is expected from Geekism, although I haven't really been able to keep it up as much as I used to. again, I spoke about this a lot on recent videos. The creator burnout has been very strong over the last couple of years. I've ended up going to find myself a day job, and also due to my separation with my ex-wife. So that's emotionally took a lot as well. I've had to sort of come up with more guaranteed streams of revenue. And now I'm paying for my own place and what have you. So that's the main reason why there's not been so much on Geekism. And because of that, when I do get that sort of random spark of hyper focus to play the game, I don't necessarily want to bog myself down with all of the rules that I used to give myself. It has to have an exact backstage, this has to be incredibly perfectly in scale, it has to be this, it has to be that, because when the creative juice does occasionally flow now, I don't want to sort of limit myself in that. So I kind of just got in here and started building, and you'll see with this roof, like, I build it so it fit. I didn't build it because it necessarily worked perfectly or what have you. I build it so that it fit. So here we're just sort of taking all of the bits that poke out. There's one little bit of bat habitat that I can't move there, one of the sort of set pieces, so it gets a vent on top of it. And I think it looks fine. It kind of makes sense that there's some venting there. So that was half of the roof, and it was enough for me to think I'll do the other half later. So I came back into the atrium part, did a little bit of planting, and again, just kind of here where the rocks poke through from the one side. If you can't hide it, make it a feature, right? So we end up just sort of copying a lot of it over and being like, yep, these rocks now are on this side as well, and they just got to carry through, and that's fine. I'm kind of happy with how that turned out. And then I think we do a light bit of scenery in here, not much, because this is one of those things that once it's built, we're never going to come back in here again probably. So I didn't want to go crazy with the interior. Oh man, we had a lot of fun trying to make the inside of this look good. I ended up again using that idea of making a fake shell. I don't think it bothers the bats, honestly. I didn't notice them clip through any of this, and I didn't notice them not be able to move around because of this. So I think it's high enough that it's not a problem. So that's fine. And then yeah, we had these two little entrance areas. I think probably that the plastic sheet in there used to let people in and out should probably be twofold. I think usually these places have like almost like an airlock, I guess. Haven't done that here. Again, I'm not craving for incredible realism right now. I just kind of want to get these places done and looking fun, and sort of implied realism, I guess. Is that a cop-out, saying implied realism? I feel I feel like that's what I'm trying to go for right now. It looks like I've thought about it a bit and that's enough. I don't know. Yeah, little temple pieces, didn't use these much at the time, but I think they look fine here. That's one done. And then as far as what's gone into these, I struggled to find a list anywhere as to any of these exhibit animals that actually are nocturnal. If any of you have got any suggestions as to which of these are actually nocturnal that I can put in here and actually make this a proper nocturnal house, but I still feel like any of the things in these tubs kind of work in this space, I think. So I'd gone for the ones that I thought looked cool, some snakes, some spiders, some axolotls, that kind of stuff. And again, kind of kept the theme in pretty light here, just to kind of box off the area. This is the secondary, the other entrance. The one thing I realized as I did all of this, I didn't know whether guests would walk through the bat habitat as part of their regular pathing, and I pretty much about here I was like, oh shit, what if they walk through a bat habitat and all just get stuck in that atrium and don't realize that they can walk through another bat habitat to get back out again. And it genuinely worried me. Luckily they do, thank goodness. Here you can see some shots of them walking through it. So it's not quite done this. Honestly, the interior is all finished and the walls and the roof is up, but obviously we need to tie it into the park itself. Might do that on a live stream. I haven't live streamed for a very long time, but I'm going to see if I can maybe find a day. The problem is I either have my son, me and Nicola swapped Xander back and forth for 4 days, so I have him for 4 and then she has him for 4 because of her work rota. So I either have my son or I work my 4 days, basically. So it leaves me with very little free time, and the only sort of free time I get is days I'm not in work and I have Xander and he's gone to bed. And at 8 o'clock at night, after having had a 5-year-old all day, or at least, having had him from school, I usually manage to drink a small glass of wine and fall asleep about 9 p.m. myself. And that's honestly the main reason why you haven't seen much video content on here, is because I just don't have the free time, unfortunately, anymore. But I would really love to live stream and connect with some of you folks again. So I'm going to try and find some space to carve that out, maybe on a Saturday or something. Anyway, that's it. Thank you so much for watching. I'm a little bit out of practice for this. Make sure you head over and check out the Zoo Tycoon board game Kickstarter. I've backed it. I think it looks fantastic. I can't wait. Seems to be a really nice chunky Euro, and obviously a theme that I'm very invested in, so I'm looking forward to that. Thank you for watching. Thanks for sticking to the end. Love yous all to bits. Until the next one, be good.